I read The Auctorati by Jarrod D. I don't remember how I came to know about Jarrod D. I think I initially, I don't know, I feel like maybe it was on Facebook that like I knew about them, or maybe Instagram. I found out about him like as a writer. It may have actually just been on Twitter, and I found out about his podcast because apparently I just love podcasts so much. I started listening to his podcast and really listened to him talk about his life and his writing process, and about writing this book and writing his first book, Pangea. And I've reached out to him before about his podcast and been like, yo, I'm enjoying it. I think he found out about my channel on Twitter, so he sent me this book to give an honest review of it. I appreciated that so much, and finally I read it. The Auctorati is a story set in an urban fantasy world similar to ours, with a lot of elements of like, I guess, medieval and fantasy elements mixed into it. I found this world fascinating. It's a city. It's also kind of, it's just like this alternate dimension or this alternate world or alternate universe where it's a world similar to ours where there's like cities and stuff, but it's also still very medieval. There's like magic, there's like a dragon and all that. So I thought that was really, like, the world is fascinating and interesting, and I definitely want to read more from this world. I get a sense that there is going to be a sequel, or at least a series of these books. So I think that would be fascinating. Hopefully there's more expansion in his storytelling going forward with these books, because in this book I got a lot still from the book, but I also felt like it could have been fleshed out more. Characters could have been fleshed out more. Actions, motivations, missions. I think there were times in the book where we needed more about characters, their backstories, their families, their lives, outside of just like, we're on this mission and we're trying to fight this villain. That's the interesting thing about it for me, because I'm the type of person, like, I'm gonna read a book, like a 400, 500 page book, and I'll be like, okay, y'all could have cut half of this stuff out of the book because it's doing too much. It's too much. Like, some of the stuff that y'all did in here was like, it felt unnecessary. I needed to know more about Libra's like past and his background. Like, I got some of it where he used to be a part of their world's version of like police, which are called enforcers. Like, I needed more of like, why did you even want to become a police officer? Why are you now pretty much the Batman of this universe or this city? Like, I get why you left being a police officer or an enforcer to become a vigilante. I needed to know more about why Libra, even in the first place, wanted to become an enforcer, then become a vigilante. Like, I needed more of that backstory. I needed to know more about, does he have other family members? Have you ever been in other relationships? Have you ever been in love? Did you go to school? It would have been able to feed into other aspects of the story that we're gonna read that would make him a lot more fleshed out, more 3D. He still felt, I would have to say he did feel flat as a character. I feel like a lot of the characters felt flat because their main motivation was this mission within this book. And it's almost like they only existed for this mission and just this book, but they don't exist outside of the book. Like, they don't have lives outside of that. Like, Libra has a mother, but it still feels like him and his mother just kind of started in this book and end in this book, and that's it. Like, they don't have lives outside of this book. And I feel like we needed more of that, and we're just not getting it. I do feel like there were allusions to like, there's gonna be more to come from this book, but it wasn't there. But I do feel like there's so much potential for such a great book. One of the things that hit me when I started reading the book was the first chapter, where it started in the middle of like a scene of like action. I felt like I didn't really know Libra that well to really care about him being in the midst of this action. I feel like even after he went through this action, I still didn't really know enough about him. Like, I started learning stuff along the way, but I felt like this chapter, that first chapter, should have started with him right before the action, explain why he was here and why he was doing this, and get into his mission, set up the world, give a few more tidbits about like where he is currently in this first chapter, to kind of just get us grounded into like, who is he, where is he right now, what is he doing, why is he doing it. Let us really get invested in him, and I needed more of that. It's scary for me to say that because I'm the person that's like, I'm ready to tell them, cut out half of what's in the book. We don't need it. Like, y'all did too much, but I needed a little bit more. Because that's another thing, the friendship development. I felt like that developed a little too quickly because they were all a bunch of people that were kind of strangers to each other. Now they were like trusting each other, but trusting each other a little too fast. Yes, we're all kind of on the same mission. We want to do the same thing, but we haven't done enough building that development. And I don't necessarily need an entire chapter or maybe huge swaths of scenes where everybody's like bonding over a campfire or going out to a party. I would have loved just to have them be able to bond as a group and gel as a group through this mission. It was just like a group of people that are like out for self, and they never got past out for self while being a group, to the point where like we are a family. Like it came like close to the end, it became a family just because I don't know, there were like little peripheral mentions to the fact that, oh, they're kind of bonding. Part of it is they weren't fully developed as characters to even start really developing friendships and connections amongst each other, because it's like we barely knew them as individual characters. So then it's like, I feel like they don't even really know each other as characters beyond just like, well, we're both after this same villain, so let's like team up and do this thing. It would have showed Libra as a more capable leader if he came out and said, hey, I'm realizing that we're all going for the same goal, but we're all taking different paths to get there, and although we're trying to do it as a group, and we're a little too disparate, so let's get it together. I've already showed you, hey, this is who I am behind this mask. Now tell me what are your motivations for like going after this person, and kind of we're all kind of bonding on that. You know, I feel like there needed more moments of like them bonding, but through this mission, and them trusting each other, because I don't want them to sidetrack to be like, well, we're gonna bond around a campfire and talk about like, and even if we're gonna bond around a campfire, maybe the bonding would come from like them being more vulnerable and telling each other about their past, whereas they all learn about their past, but we as the reader are also learning about their past. Like, why are they at this point? Like, how is like their past affected them to get them to this point? How has their family affected them, their friends, the things that they've gone through, things that they've done, like how has it gotten them to this point? Although they're not fully fleshed out, there's so much possibility for them. There's so much possibility for this world, for more plots. You know, like fleshing out the villain even more would have helped, because that would have created like an even more impactful villain. He wasn't as impactful as I thought. He just always still felt like the middle manager to like the big boss that we don't really get to see. And I was like, I need more. I needed him to be more menacing. I need to understand why like we all really dislike this villain. Like we really, because I get it, but I also felt like he just wasn't as menacing as he could have been. He could have been way more menacing, not just because he's got like a claw arm, but like how many, like if he gets power, how would his power destroy us all? Like how could he like kill us all? Like how is he gonna be this huge problem? Like let us feel the stakes of that. I want the stakes of that. For the most part, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that it was so fast paced and just such a quick read to get through. I thought like this would be a good book for like a middle grader, early high schooler, like just in that mid-teen range. Like this would be a good book for them, where they get that fantasy and all that, all those elements of that, but it's not too like, it's not trying to be too robust. It's like a nice starter 101 fantasy book, because there isn't too much character development. It's just about like, let's get to the action, let's do what we got to do. Like I feel like as a teen, if I was really into fantasy like that as a teen, I would definitely get into this. Another thing is I appreciated how it was formatted as a book. Also the paper. The paper in this book, it's like, it's kind of got like a nice little texture to it. which is interesting, like enough for me to like be talking about like, oh, a book that like the paper in it is textured, but it's so nice. It feels very, very like luxe, like very, very thoughtful how this paper is like, because it's like these slight little things that you can see in them, but it's just, I don't know, it just makes it even more, I don't know, maybe it's an intentional thing how this book was created to make reading it a lot easier, but I like how it's formatted, like the space between like sentences as you read on paragraphs, it's a lot more spacious compared to the average book where everything's a little bit more close together. I appreciated that. Like the formatting is just so much more comfortable to read, and the paper in itself I think contributes to the comfort of reading it, because it just keeps, I don't know, kept me stimulated. It kept my eyes stimulated, because as someone who thinks there's a possibility that I might have ADHD, it was really nice to read. It kept my attention and kept me stimulated, so I appreciated that. Like, I feel like that helped me read this book so much faster. And I do wish more books like formatted like this, but I also kind of understand why they might not format, because it might just cost a lot more money to format a book this way. I enjoyed this book, and I'm looking forward to reading Pangea and Unsettled Land, because after getting into this world, I would like to actually see what the book, because this is like a prequel to Pangea, so I definitely want to read what comes after that, although Pangea came first. I'm curious about it. I'm excited about that, and it's got me thinking like maybe I want to read more urban fantasy books. I'm grateful for Jarrod sending me this book and trusting me enough to like read it and to give an honest review of it. I am looking forward to seeing more books from him. Definitely check this book out. Comment or timestamp anything that resonated with you in this video. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I'm out this bitch like Fleek the Fuck.